How's it going, everybody? Welcome to We Do Tech. Now, the RTX 4080s have been out for a bit now, and even after reviewing one at launch, I was waiting to get my hands on an ROG Strix RTX 4080 OC to test it out and see if it's actually going to be worth paying that slightly but more to get one of the top of the range cards, which is again just a massive thing as well. So we're gonna go over the card today. Now, I'm not gonna focus specifically on the price because we all know that the prices for the new 4000 series cards are just out there and there's nothing we can really do about that. So I'm gonna focus on just this card and how it actually performs. So if you are in the market for actually one of these, then stay tuned because I'm gonna go over all of the specs, the temperatures, and all of that later on. So first up, let's quickly go over the price point. Now, MSRP is $1,200, but for the Strix, it is a bit more at 1,500 or 35,000 Rand for here in South Africa. So a slight bit more compared to the standard models. But if you don't want to go for the Strix, you do have the tougher version, which is slightly a bit cheaper. Now, as for specs, the 4080 does have less cores than the 3080 Ti and a smaller memory bus, even compared to the 3080 at 10 gig, which is again a bit disappointing. But with 16 gigs of VRAM and also much faster clock speeds, it does make up for that somewhat. But of course, we will see actually how it performs against those as well. And then also I will throw in a 4070 Ti as well. But I have actually covered the 4070 Ti's, a couple of them. But if you want to see how those individually perform, of course, you can watch the videos on the channel for those. But anyway, as for the new ROG Strix RTX 4080, it does have a new design compared to the previous 30 series cards. Now, I actually did like the 30 series cards a bit more, with the more silver and a kind of more futuristic type of look. I actually really like this compared to the 2000 series and then also these ones, but this one doesn't look bad at all. You do have a bit more of a blocky look. It can actually stand on its own, so if you want to have it as a showpiece, you do have that instead of having it in your system. But it does have more of this darker gray silver accent with some blue and red as well in it. You also don't get the massive RGB strip down here on the side compared to the 30 series. Instead, you only get the Republic of Gamers here on the side, and also at the back here, which is something a bit different. You do have this round transparent ring here, which does light up as well, and then just a massive amount of fins at the back and a massive radiator for the card as well to keep this baby cool. Now, like most of the cards, the PCB only comes up to around there, so the rest is just for air ventilation, for the air to actually pass through and help cool the card a bit more, just like majority of these 40 series cards. But you do have that, and I do actually like the backplate quite a bit. So that is like cut out aluminum there, CNC aluminum, and does have more of a 3D effect going on with the RGI there. So really nice. Just like the 4090s, this card is massive, so do make sure that it can actually fit inside your case, because inside my Corsair 4000D Airflow, it just fits. So do make sure that your case does have enough space. But this isn't the largest of 40 series card. There are larger ones. So if you have a standard mid tower, I believe it shouldn't be a problem. But if you have anything smaller, then yeah, you're gonna have a bit of a problem. Now, some additional extras that you get is of course the OC and silent mode switch, and then also 2 additional PWM fan headers here on the back side, which can actually connect to normal fans too and control the fan curves alongside the GPU's fan. So you do have that as an option. I can't remember if they actually had that on the 30 series of 4080, but they did have that on the 20 series. I personally haven't used that ever, but again, you do have that as an option. Now then, for I/O, you do get a 3 DisplayPort version 1.4As and 2 HDMI 2.1 ports. Now, if you want to see a more graphics card video, subscribe to the channel because I do have a bunch already, and then also a bunch more to come if new cards are being released. So definitely subscribe if you want to see more GPUs, motherboards, CPUs, peripherals, all of that, because I do have a bunch more to come. Now, as for power, you you gonna get the new 16-pin PCI Express 5 power connector, but now it luckily only needs 3 8-pins instead of the 4 compared to the 4090. Now again, just to be safe, don't bend the adapter too much. We had the problem on the 4090s where some of them burns out, and do make sure that you connect it all the way into the card, so just be mindful of that. Otherwise you can get a new power supply that has a direct connection, or again, just make sure about the cable. Now as for how much power the card draws, the 4080 does have a rated TDP of 320 watts, and in most games the power draw range between 250 to 300, but I did see spikes upwards of 335 watts for the Strix card here, compared to some of the other 4080s that I have reviewed. Those ones are just slightly bit less at like 330. As for cooling, so I believe you're getting the exact cooler compared to the 4090 on the 4080 here, so cooling is going to be pretty good. So of course with the Strix using 100 watts less compared to the 4090, cooling was no issue, and with ambient temperatures around 23 degrees, the card never went above 70 degrees and 50% fan speed. The card also has a fan stop mode, so if the card isn't running or it doesn't use a lot of power, then the fans is going to start up only when reaching a certain temperature. Now I will say that I did experience some Coil Whine on this card. It was a different Coil Whine compared to the 4070 Ti Tough that I reviewed, but I did experience it in some of my benchmarks, not all of them, just some of them. So just be mindful of that, but you guys can listen to how it sounds here as well. Now then, as for how the 4080 Strix perform, all of the games are set on Ultra with a no DLSS on 1440p. All of the games reach over 100 FPS, and when enabling a DLSS or FSR and ray tracing, we get a nice up to 50% increase. Now except for the new Plague's Tale game, which hit almost 70%. Then for 4K, it was only Cyberpunk on Ultra without a DLSS that fell below the 60 FPS mark. All of the other games was over 60 FPS in a 4K with again max settings. Now by enabling a DLSS, you do get upwards of a 50% bump in FPS, and now instead of a 70% increase for Plague's Tale, you get a 90% increase. So if you wanted to play at 4K 100 FPS, it's much easier to obtain by just dropping some of the settings and also enabling a DLSS. Now unfortunately, I did not have a 3090 or 3090 Ti to compare it to, but I was able to compare it to the RTX 4090 and also the 4070 Ti. So then on a 1440p, the 4090 was between 7 to 50% faster than the 4080. However, in a 4K, it goes up to between 24% to 45%, which is quite the difference. But when it comes to a blender, the 4090 is slightly a bit faster at over 30%, and in spec view perf, it's around 25% faster. The reference Nvidia card has a boost clock of 2510 MHz, while the Strix card hits 2655 MHz, and that is on a paper. In a game, it reached an average of 2835 MHz, and with a slight overclock, it hit 2925 MHz. So if you wanted to, you can push it slightly bit more to get to that 3 GHz mark, but honestly I didn't see any increase in performance really, so I wouldn't really even push it at that far. So then in conclusion, the 4080 here doesn't disappoint in performance. However, again, at that price point being even more than the standard 4080s, it is going to be, I think, out of the price range for a lot of previous 40 buyers, at around 33% cheaper than the 4090, but also around 25% slower. The 4090 might actually be a better buy. Now, it's not even comparable to the 3080 anymore, because just again, that price point, it's just way too much. So you can't really compare them to apples anymore. But you still have the option of upgrading to the 4080 here. Otherwise, you can go for the 4070 Ti as well. So the main question is the ROG Strix 4080 OC actually worth buying again at that $1,500 price point? Well, it is a hard sell. You do get extra performance out, you do get better cooling and all of that, but it is $1,500. But if you are in the market for this card, it is probably one of the best 4080s that you can actually get. So yeah, there you go. But then you can also go for a 4090 like tough or something, $1,600. So yeah, the Strix cards are quite a hard sell because they're usually just a slightly bit cheaper than the standard model just above it. So yes, you do have it as an option, but you do also have other options as well. But anyway, that's pretty much it. It's just going to be up to you and what you can actually afford. So a big shout out to ASUS South Africa for sending the card over for this video. And if you guys want to get it for yourself, I will leave links in the video description. And if you guys enjoyed this review, please like, share, subscribe, and comment like always. I'll check all of you guys next time. Cheers, guys.